Buster Scher from Hoops Nation. Welcome to our Thursday night chat.
Thank you for having me. I love this setup. It's great.
Yeah. So one thing for those who are new, Matt will have you put questions into the queue, and then we'll acknowledge you and then turn you on so that you can ask the questions directly to Buster. But Buster, why don't you kind of tell them the story about, especially when you were in high school working in radio, how you kind of came up with the idea and how you've kind of built Hoops Nation and the platforms that you're on now.
Yeah, so it started a little bit before I started doing radio. When I was probably 14, I was going to school in Brooklyn at the time, and I was just obsessed with fantasy basketball. And I, like pretty much any 14-year-old who played fantasy sports, thought they knew everything in the world. So I just thought that my, incredible knowledge should be shared with the world. Which looking back is pretty hilarious because I'm sure a lot of the predictions I made were inaccurate. But point was, I just wanted to share what I knew about fantasy basketball with everybody. And at the time, the only way that I thought I could was by starting a Facebook page and blogging and giving my picks and thoughts on and for fantasy basketball. So for about 8 months, I was posting every day on a Facebook page. It was called Fantasy Basketball Community. And every day for like 8 months, I was posting my thoughts or whatever. Nobody paid any attention. Looking back, I'm amazed that I continued doing it for that long with literally reaching nobody. I'm sure the page had, 400 followers after like almost a year of doing it every single day. But I'm glad that I did continue it just because I was truly enjoying it. And then around the summer after, I guess it must have been my 8th grade or freshman year of high school, I moved here to Connecticut, where my new high school had a radio station, and because of that, I started broadcasting JV girls field hockey, which at the time was the most exciting thing in the world because I, growing up, just wanted to be a broadcaster. So I was getting my chance, even though it was for a sport that I did not know or care about, at a school that I knew nobody at. I just enjoyed kind of learning that and continuing doing this fantasy basketball stuff at the time as well. But around that, I decided that I might as well that I might as well expand this fantasy basketball stuff to cover the entire NBA, because it was a little bit niche, especially on Facebook at the time, just doing fantasy basketball. So I decided to expand it out a little bit. I started an outlet called All NBA All Day. And that was, my new passion project where I wanted to make it a little bit more serious, but I was still super young and I had no idea what I was doing. But I'm glad that I did try to expand it, and I tried to expand it to the point because it was a little bit more successful at the start. It says my internet should be fine. Because it was a little bit better at the start because I was covering the entire NBA. I decided very quickly to expand to NFL, MLB, NHL, which in retrospect was a mistake, but that's why I'm sharing it. I tried to take on too much at one time. So I then came back, was just doing the NBA, and then at school I was doing the broadcasting. And then something really special happened, which pretty much changed my life, really. And it was perfect timing with my broadcasting. Facebook launched a feature called Facebook Live. And at the time, it was only available in certain countries because they were testing it out. So I decided to create an account that said I was from one of those countries and started streaming on that account. And then it was just sharing it onto the All NBA All Day page. And because of my newfound broadcasting practice, I was pretty confident on air. So I just started doing it. So I was talking NBA every single night like this in pretty much this exact same spot because I lived in Connecticut at the time. And I was just talking basketball and answering questions from adults, from kids, from whoever found the page. And pretty quickly after that, since they were doing well, and this page probably had 10 or 15,000 followers, other NBA pages started seeing it and they started paying attention. So they then asked me to do the same thing on their pages. So I started streaming on their pages and, they offered to pay me $20 here, $50. And I never took payment. I always just said, I will do it for free as long as I can promote the hell out of my own page. So I did that. Essentially for like an hour every single night, or sometimes 2 or 3 hours, because I would do half-hour streams on multiple pages. I would just be every other question. I would just be like, yeah, and by the way, make sure to go follow my page on their much larger pages. So that's kind of how I went from like 10 to 30,000 on All NBA All Day. And then it just got to a point where I decided that I wanted to cover all levels of basketball. So that's how Hoops Nation kind of came to be. So I then took the All NBA All Day audience and merged it with the new Hoops Nation page that I created. And I started covering all levels of basketball and using that same strategy at the beginning, streaming on other people's pages. And I was doing like a Laker show Wednesday, like so just random stuff, like a high school edition thing for this page, like just going on and doing whatever I could to make them happy as it was their page, and also convert people back to mine. So I started doing that. And Facebook at the time was great for video. So most of the content that I was putting out was video, and that on Facebook caught fire pretty quickly, because even to this day, in my opinion, the Facebook share button is the most impactful one button click on social media. It's more impactful than a Instagram share to your story. It's more impactful than a retweet, because it shares to your entire network, and it's very, very easily accessible to then share those again. But so I was pushing Facebook video pretty hard, and once the page grew to a certain point, and I always tried posting it all myself and doing it all myself, I started bringing on other people to help out with the page. And I did that pretty much through kids DMing me saying that they just wanted to help out and post. And Facebook is really great with being able to assign roles on a page. So I then assigned a lot of people as editors to that page, and they would just be able to freely post, but I didn't have to worry about the security of the page because they were just added on in that fashion. So I started building up on Facebook. I had a couple really, really viral videos. I remember the first time like something crazy happened was I made this little edit on iMovie at the time, and it was a video. It was a mashup of when when a Miami Heat fan hit a half-court shot at a Heat game, and LeBron went and tackled him. And I put whatever the hottest song of the summer was over the top of it, and like cut it and did slow-mo and all that stuff. And it got like 50 million views. And that grew the page by like 100,000 followers in 2 days, which was insane. That does not happen anymore. That never happened on Instagram, and it certainly doesn't happen as frequently on Facebook anymore. But that shot it from like 100,000 to like 200,000. And then from then I just realized how I needed to be pushing videos and started optimizing around that. Until Facebook decided for some reason that they didn't want to give people organic reach anymore. So in that case, what you got to do is you got to adapt. I learned that the hard way. So I then went over to Snapchat and started siphoning my audience from Facebook to Snapchat. Did the same thing over to Twitter. And then eventually I joined super late, but I joined Instagram. I joined Instagram in like 2017 and just started taking the same content that was doing well on the other platforms over there. And then have been on those platforms pretty much until December. And then in December, I started taking TikTok pretty seriously there. And I got a kid who was as dedicated to it, if not more than myself. And we just started running with that. And it's funny because it's like I spent 2.5 years posting 20 times a day on Instagram, and I'm almost at 1 million there now. But TikTok in 3 months we grew 2.5 million. So you just gotta always be open to new platforms. But that's a very abbreviated version of how Hoops Nation came to be. There are a lot of other things that came along the path as far as myself, and I'm sure I'll get into a little bit of that as we continue this, but that's kind of like the Hoops Nation side of things. Joe?
Buster, one platform you didn't talk about, which you're always big on, is LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Tell them how you use LinkedIn and why it's important.
Yeah, so LinkedIn is definitely more of a personal platform. I don't use it for Hoops Nation, nor would I ever, but personally, I think LinkedIn, for like on the scale of where I rank platforms for personal brand, LinkedIn is in the top 3, 100%. because similarly to how highly I used to value and still value the Facebook share, the LinkedIn like, which is like it's so much less serious than a share, because a share you're knowingly, distributing something because you want everybody who you know to see it. A LinkedIn like, if you like a post, like if I like a post on your LinkedIn, that then shares that on the feed of every single person who follows me. So it's incredibly easy right now to get organic reach on LinkedIn. And I think people don't realize how easy it is to produce content there as well. You could write 4 lines about your day or something you learned, and 2 friends like it, and it shares with their entire network. And then two people from each of those networks likes it. It's just distributing at such a rapid pace. Imagine if on Instagram imagine on Instagram if I liked your post and then it appeared on the feed of everyone who followed me. Like imagine Drake likes your post and now your post is on the feed of everybody who follows Drake. Like that's what LinkedIn is, and people just don't take it seriously because they look at it as like this platform that is for old people who are trying to get a job. But that's totally not like the social media, like that is a side of it, but that's not the social media side of it. I have a good buddy who has 100,000 LinkedIn followers now. Like these are very real numbers on LinkedIn, and it's oftentimes a much better audience, for whatever company, whatever thing you're trying to build than, my Instagram or my TikTok audience is going to be of like, 15-year-olds. So I think it's super valuable and something that no matter what I'm doing, I'm paying a lot of attention and posting at least a couple times a week.
Great. Tell them a little bit about your choices that you made, why you decided to at least not go to college yet, and kind of what your day-to-day business life is like. And then Matthew, we can start taking questions too as well.
Yeah, so I chose not to go to college because school wasn't for me. I think school is great for some people, but definitely was not great for me. I'm very I can't do anything that I don't care about. Like really can't do it. So like math, can't do it. Like I just can't bring myself to do it when I know I can do all these other things. And I'm not against at some point learning those things, but I have to be passionate about wanting to learn them. Like something I'm taking a lot of interest in now is accounting. So I might over the next couple months start diving into like online educational stuff for learning accounting. But just because I think it'd be good for me to know. But school in like a school sense was never even a question for me from the age of 16. So I completely punted that out the window and have been very happy with my decision because it's given me the freedom that I needed to really scale some of the stuff that I'm doing and allocate all the time I need. And then as far as on a daily basis, it's pretty sporadic. I mean, I have like 5 or 6 ongoing businesses. So Hoops Nation is one piece, which is the Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, relationships, TikTok, relationships and all that, and posting and making sure that people who I have in charge of different platforms are doing their thing, and I'm contributing where I can and doing live streams and new content for that. And then I also do work on the music side. So I help out labels, when they have a hip hop artist, so Atlantic, Def Jam, and a bunch of other labels, when they have hip hop artists primarily that need to get their new music out or they drop albums, they oftentimes come to me and are like, how do we get this across social? So then I'll go out, with my partners on those projects, or if I'm doing it solo, I'll do that. And I'll make content for it, and I'll pick all the pages in my network that I'm going to distribute this stuff on, and then get, DaBaby's new album out to as many people as possible and make sure people know what's going on. So I spend a lot of time doing that. And then my whole personal brand side, which is my now 3 times a week podcast. It's called The Buster Show. And that has everybody from NBA players to, people I admire, to artists, to influencers, to TikTok stars, everybody all over the map comes on that show. So I put a lot of emphasis on that, and then in addition to that, my personal posting. So my personal platforms on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. And then I also have some of my new endeavors, which are in the sports card space. So I think the sports card market is going to be going berserk over the next year. That's my tip right now for anybody that cares about any of that kind of stuff. So I started a subsidiary company underneath Hoops Nation called Cards Nation, and I've been building that through a couple different content series, some of which are on a separate YouTube channel from my podcast. So I've been doing a lot of that. And then the other side is the consulting side. So I consult for a few different companies, some in the sports space and one outside. And I try to get them up to my level as far as, or put them in a better position than they were in, from understanding social and what they should be doing, and putting editors in place to where, they can help them in the future. And usually those range from like 2 to 3 months, but right now I have a couple of those. So my day, a lot of that is spent on calls, with them, working on that kind of stuff. And then lastly, it's whatever shows I'm then hosting for other companies. I do a lot of hosting for the NBA, and other companies that reach out. So a lot of it is also fielding kind of those opportunities. I'm sure I'm missing a couple of things, but that's like a couple of things I do during the day.
Not bad. All right, Matthew, you want to open us up for questions?
Yeah, great. Our first question is from JD Braga. Yeah.
Let me pull it up.
Thanks.
Hi, Buster. I'm JD Braga. I'm from California. As a fellow huge NBA fan, I just wanted to ask you on your thoughts on the NBA's actions in response to the coronavirus so far, like shutting down the league temporarily and allowing some teams to open practice facilities. And with a lot of executives and players looking to continue the season, how would you propose the league reopens?
Yeah, tomorrow's a big day. Tomorrow's the day with the commissioner and all the players talking about what they're going to do. So
it's a great question. I as far as response, I think the NBA was ahead of the curve a little bit. They were one of the first leagues to shut down, so I definitely, commend them on that. But as far as like when to come back or any of that, I wish I knew. I don't know like the status of the virus, or if being in, because I know one of the proposed ideas, which I love the idea of in theory if it's safe, getting a whole strip in Vegas and then everybody staying in those hotels and playing without coming in contact with anybody else and being tested. I love that idea, but again, I resort back to people who medically know more than I do. Because I'm just like, I'm a basketball fan like you are, so I'm gonna be like, yeah, if it's safe, like bring back the season, hell yeah. Like I miss the Knicks. I miss like watching LeBron try to get his title, and I don't want him to get that stripped away from him and have that like asterisk above his name for forever. In like GOAT debates, there are a million different reasons I want the NBA to be back, but as far as when or how, I resort back to people who know a lot more than I do.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And then our next question is from Brennan.
Hi, I'm Brennan. I'm from San Francisco. And I noticed within the past week, there have been a couple of days where you've posted 9 times on Hoops Nation's Instagram. And there was another day where you posted 24 times. So I was wondering if you pay attention to that and how you decide how much to post.
Good question.
Great question. If I could post 200 times a day, I would. I'm a big believer in the more the merrier if the content's good. So at the end of the day, it comes down to a couple of things. One is time. So if it depends on how much time I had to make or find or, post great content, or some of the people that I have helping out with that kind of stuff, they can, same on their end. And yeah, but if I could post 200 times a day, I would. Usually it's either I don't have the best I don't have 20 great pieces of content. I have 9. Or other times it's, I didn't have enough time. So I settled for 9. But in an ideal world, I'm posting every 5 minutes, the best piece of content ever. That's the goal. Whereas I think a lot of companies and brands, like in ESPN or Bleacher Report, they're very like kept as far as like how much they're putting out. And, a lot of people are believers in like, don't overflow people's feeds, but I believe if they're following you and they love your content, you might as well give them more of it. Like, I didn't make anybody, follow, like hopefully they follow for a reason, and you want to give them what they came for.
Buster, does time of day matter?
No, I don't believe in that. Especially since the algorithms change so frequently. Like in the past couple of weeks, I've seen a lot more interaction on posts more than an hour or 2 hours after I post it. So I don't even feel bad about posting at 4 a.m. because I know, at 12, Instagram might just push it to the top of feeds, and then that's when it gets all its reach. So I think that's semi-true, especially with platforms like YouTube and TikTok, and Facebook even. Like TikTok, I get likes on videos. Some videos I've had a video get 1 million views 2 months after I posted it. So it really doesn't matter in my opinion.
Right.
Another question from Patrick Carula.
Hi, I'm Patrick. I'm also from the Bay Area. My question is, what do you think was the hardest thing for you in developing your brand, and or was there a time where you were like, ooh, I don't know if this is gonna work out or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the hardest thing is allowing other people to help you, because from my experience, I always wanted to do everything myself, but there comes a point where you don't have enough hours in the day to do everything you want to do. And you just gotta help people help yourself. So putting other people in the position to where they can do the job as good, if not hopefully better than I can, and giving them access and the trust, and whatever they need to be able to do that. That's definitely been the hardest part, and still is for me, finding the right people to help and then allowing them to, because I have associated my personal brand so much with the Hoops Nation brand that people, if somebody posted something wrong on Hoops Nation, I'm taking the hit. Whereas I don't know if that's the same for ESPN. If ESPN posts something bad, I don't know if anybody points fingers at one individual person. But that if somebody posted something bad, it comes, directly on my behalf. Oh, Buster, how, you really think that? So that's been my toughest thing, but just about finding good people.
Okay, we have another question from Lucas Richmond.
Audio, Lucas.
Lucas, yeah, you're on mute, I think. Oh, no, you're good.
Audio? Is my audio not working?
You're
You're good now.
New York Times alum like you. So my question is what is your relationship like with the NBA and WNBAs?
Yeah. My relationship with the NBA is, growing up, I always wanted to work with them. That's, in my opinion, the NBA is the best league in the world as far as how they do their content, as far as, how they treat their players, as far as how on top of current events and current topics they are. So from a young age, I always wanted to work with them. And the NBA has this program. It's called the NBA Playmakers Program. And they reached out when I was still in high school, because they wanted to have me as part of the program. And essentially it's a group of influencers. I think it's 30 or 40 influencers. And then once you're signed on to the NBA Playmakers Program, they start giving you access to certain things. And if, they like you, which fortunately they did for me, they started inviting me to host shows. And then some of those shows that I was doing started getting, more consistent. And I did a show for a year and a half where I interviewed NBA players while playing 2K on the NBA's Twitch channel. I've done stuff at the Hall of Fame for them and the draft and all kinds of things. But yeah, my relationship with the NBA has always been really good. They're awesome people. I've never met somebody bad there. And the WNBA, I am supportive. I've never been able to work with the WNBA, but I'd love to in the future, especially since the Liberty have a new star.
Great. Our next question comes from Ryan Diamond. I don't know if he has a camera, but if you just want to say your question aloud. Great.
All right. Hey, Buster. I'm sure you saw this coming. Sorry, my camera doesn't work. I have a question. What advice do you have for beginner level card collectors?
That's a great question, Ryan. My best advice would be to invest in guys that you personally both enjoy watching and believe that they can get a lot better than they are right now. So for example, and this is a subject that I'm very passionate about, as you can tell. I think where people go wrong is they'll buy a guy like, let's say, Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony is not going like, I love Melo and I loved him on the Knicks and he played in my favorite game of all time when he scored 62 against the Bobcats. But like, let's say you buy Melo right now, his legacy, like I think he will be in the Hall of Fame, but it's not like he's going to show people anything that we don't already know. And he's not in the LeBron, Kobe, MJ category. So his value is going to stay pretty steady, if not go down. Whereas you have young guys like, let's say, a guy that I've been investing in recently is Kobe White of the Chicago Bulls, because I think he runs the floor really well and he has a lot better to go. And I think his cards are undervalued. I'm going to buy him now because I think he's going to become an all-star. So guys that aren't all-stars now that you think are going to become all-stars, from a young player standpoint, that's who I would invest in. And then from an older guy standpoint, like older veterans or retired players, only go for the top 10, like the Shaqs, the MJs, the LeBrons, and buy graded stuff. So PSA or BGS 9, 5, or 10. That's really what I would do. But buy players you really enjoy watching and you think they can get a lot better, or are already the best and are only adding to their insane LeBron-esque legacy.
Great. I think Jack Adams has a question now.
Yeah, so you talked earlier about how you at one point you went like broader with your account. So if you just want to give some like advantages and disadvantages of having a basketball focused content platform.
Yeah, so I think it comes down to one thing, which I didn't even know at the time, but I got lucky. And that was that the NBA is the only league with a very open content policy. The NBA feels as though if you're not directly conflicting with their live TV viewership, you're helping the league. Whereas the MLB, NFL, they're starting to change a little bit, but for the most part, they feel as though, why should you be able to post our content when other people are paying to post our content? You know, you have to buy the rights to post it. That's why you don't see any big NFL pages on Instagram like Hoops Nation is for basketball. That's why you don't see very many MLB pages, you know, posting footage, because if they can't. If you see one, it's not going to be there in like a year, unless it's owned by like a legitimate company that owns TV rights. So that's one of the reasons why basketball over other sports is just better on social right now in general. I think over the next couple of years, the other leagues will adjust and you'll start seeing big MLB and NFL and NHL pages pop up around social, but not yet. And then the advantage of going broader from just like NBA to all levels of basketball is just more content. And if you like the NBA, you're going to like seeing a 7-year-old get dunked on. So that was my thinking there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now we have a question from Jada Pant.
Hi, Buster. I was wondering, as a person heavily involved in the TikTok space, how do you see the platform really growing and expanding over the next couple years and making it more than just kind of a trend?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have a couple doubts in TikTok's future. One is the US and the government, they don't allow people to have TikTok on their phones because it's not US owned and it accesses location and pretty much all information on your phone. So they have some serious data and security issues for people in the US. They don't allow people in the Army to have TikTok either. Now, you know, I'm not too concerned with them knowing that I'm, you know, in bed posting basketball highlights. So that doesn't necessarily concern me, but from a legal and government standpoint, that isn't a great sign. Those things don't exist in the same, they exist. There are other problems with Facebook and Instagram and all that, but not in the same way. That's one doubt I have. Another doubt I have is with their rights to music. I see a lot of changes on the platform now as far as like what is usable for like commercial use. So they're limiting certain like song choices for some accounts. So that's another concern. But in general, the reason I think it will last is what differentiates it from Vine. So I don't know if you guys remember Vine, but Vine's 6-second platform. The problem with 6 seconds is you can't advertise on 6 seconds. You can't put a 30-second ad, or you can't make a great 6-second ad, and you can't put it in between 2 or 3 videos because you can't be watching 12 seconds of content and then you get hit with a 30-second ad. Just, you're not keeping anybody on the platform. So they went down. Everybody, all the creators, influencers jumped ship. Now that's like the Logan Paul, like the King Batch, the Amanda Cerny's of the world, and they're crushing YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok now. But where I believe in TikTok is that it's not that. It's 13, like primarily 13 to 60-second videos. And a lot of it, like it works, and it works on other platforms too. That's one of the ways that I kind of evaluate whether content is good. Is, all right, does your LinkedIn post perform well on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok? Does your YouTube video perform well on these other platforms when you chop it up? TikToks do well everywhere. You see TikToks on Twitter, you see TikToks on Instagram, you see TikToks on YouTube. Wherever you go, I see TikToks on LinkedIn. Like, it is literally everywhere. And that's why I think the platform is going to last, because the content is just, it's evergreen and it works everywhere. So those are my lengthy thoughts on TikTok.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I actually have a question. So once the NBA season ended, like, how did your job change, and then what steps have like Hoop Nation as a page like taken to adjust?
Yeah, so stuff is performing better than ever right now because I decided that the best thing to do during this would be to take all of the best performing content from years of doing it and just repost it all. So like every great highlight, every great meme, all of it, every great tweet that we shared, everything, just put it back out. And people, I really believe that if you post something and you don't post it for 3 months, 9 out of 10 people that saw it the first time won't even remember seeing it. So you can literally, like, there are some posts that I've literally posted 5 to 10 times, and every time it does really, really well. And I don't know if other pages do that too, but that's definitely a theory I have. So I'm used to, pushing old content or resurfacing content. So I do a lot of that, and I'm also scavenging the internet for old stuff that I never posted as well. So some of the best from other accounts and stuff like that.
Right. Okay, so I think Robbie Perino has another question.
Yeah, hi, Robbie here. What do you believe makes Hoops Nation stand out compared to other like basketball themed Instagram pages?
Yeah, so I think Hoops Nation stands out for a couple of things. One is I don't think there are very many other accounts that have I think I have like 25,000 posts on Instagram, like 30,000 on Facebook, like probably 100,000 Snapchat uploads. Like those are pretty insane numbers to beat. And I really do go for the highest, quality, in my opinion, as a basketball fan, content. Stuff that I find the funniest, best, most relatable, whatever it is. So I really do think a lot of it is the quantity, but also not just going, no quality as well. So I think it's a combination of that, as well as just being aggressive when going on other platforms.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wait. Ryan Diamond has one more question to ask.
There you go.
Sorry, but my question is, you said to if I want to look at cards, what is the best way? Would you say boxes or invest from eBay?
If you're trying, here, let me answer this a couple ways. If you're trying to just enjoy the hobby and have fun, buy boxes 100%. But if you're real serious about trying to make money and investing, buy singles on eBay. That would be my advice there. And you can make money buying boxes, but it's a very Vegas-like gamble when you're buying boxes, because for those that aren't into sports cards, when you buy basketball cards, for example, you can buy all different price ranges. You can buy a basketball card box that's $2,500, and in it, it's called Flawless. That's the name of the product. And in it, you get 10 cards. Now they're all insane and amazing, or you can also buy a $300 box where obviously you're not going to get the same quality stuff on average, but you could theoretically, out of a $300 box, pull a Zion rookie card 1/1 and sell that for $300,000. So there's like a crazy chance of getting something wild in those, but safe bet, safe investment, buy singles on eBay. That's what I'd say, Ryan.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Olivia has a question to ask.
Sweet.
Hi. So I was wondering, how do you kind of target, what kind of audience are you targeting with your content, and how do you feel like accounts like Hoop Nation are instrumental in kind of augmenting the fan base for professional basketball?
As far as like who I'm targeting, I don't really look at it that way particularly. I look at it as whoever enjoys my content, it'll get to them. Like whoever likes seeing, like, one of my favorite videos is this edited video where Terrence Ross, I don't remember what team he was on at the time, but he throws a basketball and then it cuts to hitting somebody in the face in the crowd. It's edited. It's not a real video. But like whoever is interested in that video, I believe it'll get to them eventually through like friends sharing it with friends and like them seeing it on the Explore page and all those kinds of things. But at the same time, I pay attention to the audience. So like on TikTok, for example, TikTok is 50-50 male-female. Instagram is 95-5. So on TikTok, I'll post more female videos. I will post more female basketball videos on TikTok than I do on Instagram because I know it'll perform better there because half the audience is not male. I have to post content for the people that are following the page. And those people, though, found the page through the normal Instagram content, but, that's a different audience on that platform. And I post like more like nice, like cute videos and stuff like that for basketball stuff. Like some of the stuff that does the best on TikTok will be like the guy's going for a layup. He pretends to fake an injury. He like fakes an injury and then proposes to his girlfriend. Like that stuff crushes on TikTok. And I think that has something to do with why, there is more of a gender split on TikTok. But as far as who I target, I don't really target anybody. I just try to put out the stuff for the people to follow, and then everybody else will find it accordingly.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Lauren has a question she'd like to ask.
Hey. What's
Hey. So you kind of touched on this earlier, but how important, or do you think it is important to stick to like a one sport niche on social media these days, or can you stick to like more of a broader range of like 2 or 3 sports?
Yeah, for starting, I would definitely start with the sport that you're the most knowledgeable, the one you love the most, in short. And I would pay a little bit of attention to the content rights and policies in regards to that. So if you're a big basketball fan, I would push you putting out basketball content heavy over other sports. And then once, you reach a certain level, it's a lot easier to dip into those other sports. That's definitely how I approach it. Like I'm a sport that I really care about right now and I want to get more into. And I have something coming up in a little bit, but is the tennis world. Right now, tennis has nothing. There is no media, yet everybody loves tennis. It is an international sport and it's big in the States too. So I think that's an endeavor that I'm interested in, but I wouldn't have even considered that until now. So I definitely suggest sticking to one sport to start. And then after that, expanding. I learned that the hard way by when I had 5,000, 10,000 followers on all NBL day. I decided to make all NFL and all MLB and all NHL and just outsource everything and just whoopee, hopefully it works. And it didn't. It did not work. So I learned that. So I would stick to basketball if you like basketball. If you don't, then football or whatever sport you care about most. But if it was like a tie between two, I would go with basketball.
Great. Jada has another question to ask.
Yep.
So I saw in the summer of 2017, you worked for Gary Vee, obviously, in Overtime. So I was kind of wondering how you got involved with those opportunities and how you were able to sort of separate yourself from, obviously, their competitive talent pool.
Yeah, for sure. So Vayner, I met I found Gary because my uncle recommended his content to me when I was like 15. And he was the first person that I thought I wanted to be like, because he went to college, but he was very untraditional route and very, oddball guy. So I was drawn to him in that way. And then a little bit later on, I met one of his social media people who's one of my best friends now. His name's Elliot. He runs another page called Dunk. And he was at the time Gary's social guy, so we started talking. He wanted me to meet Gary. I was also talking to his videographer, who's also now one of my best friends, name's D-Rock. And I became closer with those guys. And I also knew this professor at Columbia. His name's Ed Zimmerman. And he knew Gary from the wine world because Ed was he is like a VC type guy, but he used to buy from Gary in his wine store. And then when Gary started doing his other things, Ed would sometimes have him in to speak. And one day, and I was like 15, I think at the time, 15 or 16. One time Ed knew Gary was coming in and he told me, he said I should come to class. So I came to the Columbia graduate class and I sat in. And then right after it finished, and I had told his social guy, Elliot, I had told him that I was going to be there. So he, informed Gary and told Gary who I was beforehand. So at the end, I just went up to him and introduced myself and we talked a little bit. It's in like his old vlog. If you really went back and dove for it. I think the name of the YouTube video is called "The Grind Is On." I remember that. So if you want to see that, it's there. But that's when I met him. And at the end, he said that he wanted me to come by the office, and the rest kind of took care of itself on that front. But that was that. And then over time, I met the founder and CEO, Dan Porter. I actually played. He didn't know this at the Actually, it started another way. His social guy, so like the Overtime social guy, reached out to me because they wanted my help. They had 10,000 followers on Instagram at the time, and I had like 80,000. They way passed me, but they wanted my help building up on social. So I went in to meet with them, and then at the time I realized that the CEO, I played on his son's like intramural basketball team, so he remembered me from that. Although he only realized that after I was already in there for a meeting unrelated. And he asked if I wanted to intern, and I said yeah, because when I was younger, I like to divide my summers amongst different companies. And if anybody's fortunate enough to be able to do that, I would do that. I would work for as many companies as possible when you've no overhead. And you don't, like, I think I got paid. I don't remember, but that wasn't a concern. It was just getting in the door with as many companies as possible. And those are relationships that I still have today with all those people at both of those companies. And over time, I hosted a show for 2 years for. It was called Take That L. It was a Facebook Live show. So yeah, that's kind of how both of those came to be. But all great people. I love them all.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I have a question about so what are like various revenue streams through like Instagram or TikTok? Like what do you find like most profitable, like going through sponsorships or just like ad revenue and things like that?
Yeah, so ad revenue, that's, a combination of like the organic in-platform ads, and then people that come to me approach me and want to promote their product, their brand, their personality, whatever it is. But a lot of it's through the music front. So like what I do with the labels, and then I use my own accounts to, push artists through that. And it translates to streams really well. And, gets the artist socials up. So a combination of that is great. And then also the consulting front. I have people on monthly retainers, so that's obviously good. And then kind of like sporadic other stuff here and there.
Right. And then Olivia has a question.
So you mentioned about TikTok. Obviously, there's more of a woman face on that, and the fact that they like the stuff with there's the proposals and things like that. How do you see kind of that emotional part of sports industry with football and basketball especially? How do you like see that being important just as much as skill would be, and I guess the appeal for fans?
Totally. I think those kind of videos do well for everybody, and that's why they do so well, because everybody loves them. Like, I love those videos. And then as far as on the skill front, I think guys and people in general just need to push female sports more. I think, the late great Kobe was one of the prominent people in pushing female basketball. And I think he pushed the game forwards in a lot of ways for, he brought in a lot of NBA superstars to go watch WNBA games and push that. Obviously, the WNBA is not on the NBA's level, but there are incredible, talented athletes in the WNBA, and it's on people like myself to push that more. So I think that's something that I'm always trying to do more. And I think what the WNBA and female sports leagues need most is a star, like somebody you can attach to, somebody you can associate with, like the LeBrons and Messis and all that. And I think there are some coming up in female basketball. I like Haley Van Lith a lot. I like a few different female basketball players. So I think when they really hit the NBA in stride while having a huge social media base, it's gonna put the game on another level. And it's on people like myself to push that as well, which I'm going to.
Great. Okay, we have one final question from Jack Adams.
Sweet.
Okay, so what would be the biggest piece of advice you could give us?
Best piece of advice would be to try whatever you're thinking about doing and just do it. Like, if you want to start a podcast, do it, put out 10 episodes and move on. Just like be super efficient and try everything you want to try, especially when you have, low or minimal overhead. And don't care what your friends think at all, because it doesn't matter what they think.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Buster, thanks for joining everyone tonight, taking an hour out of your pretty busy schedule. Once again, we've been doing these on Thursday nights. We're going to take next week off because I know a bunch of people have either exams or graduation and AP exams, and then we'll come back in a couple weeks. Once again, everybody's got the email address. If there's a topic or a person that you'd like us to have on, we'd gladly have everybody on. We're trying to vary it as much as we can. It's your segment. We want to make it as impactful as we can for everybody. Tell your friends about it. Thanks for coming tonight. Buster, once again, thanks for joining us. Everybody's going to follow Hoops Nation as they already do, and follow you on all your other platforms. Everybody have a great week. Enjoy Mother's Day, and we'll talk to you in a couple weeks.